Okay, so the gist of it was to take a look at the curriculum for citizenship education in the elementary range, and particularly focus on the definitions of multiculturalism, and then look at how the commercial print media magazines, largely, that are used in class to engage people in literacy, do and don't conform with that curriculum.
What were our main concern going into our research was that there's a hidden curriculum in commercial print media. Commercial print media are by nature commercial, so they come out of a consumer context. So our question was, do the citizenship, the depictions of citizenship in the magazines correspond to the curriculum's notion of citizenship in terms of rights, responsibilities,
community building.
And community building,
yeah.
Exactly. So, and what we found is that particularly in the area of multiculturalism, because Canada is defined as a multicultural society, that the magazines are very problematic. They depict a form of boutique multiculturalism where everything is commodifiable.
One of the things that we argue is that, in fact, the curriculum definition of multiculturalism kind of feeds into some of that boutique multiculturalism that you see in the magazine, so that, in fact, it doesn't always contradict the curriculum expectations. So we were trying to problematize the curriculum expectations a little bit too. That said, in terms of your question, we talked about, and it would have been nice to have actually a longer conversation about ways in which you might overcome that by doing things like, actually asking your students how much this representation conforms to their own experience, and how how it's the same, how it's different, and how do they feel about it as a beginning.
So making them aware of that these are representations, right, in the magazines, and asking them to compare those representations with their lived experience. Mm-hmm. So, yeah. So by putting it in context, for instance, asking kids about this. Actually, one student in the session today suggested having workshops for parents on how to read, how to use these materials, because part of the problem is these magazines tend to be ignored because they are so useful at teaching literacy, right? So kids like them.
Some of the titles?
Like
Owl,
Pop,
and Pop Junior, Comet. Even in the magazines that were touted as the most educational, there was a considerable level of advertising.
In fact, a higher level of advertising in those magazines than in one more directly pop culture kind of magazines like the magazine Not for Adults, which is aimed at grades 6 to 12 or 6 to 10,
okay.
And it's all about pop culture. But.
So if there's one thing you could pass on based on your research to educators about with younger children around media, well, what would it sort of be?
Choose your magazines wisely.